When I think about investing in my video business, I naturally think about buying cameras to optimize my workflow and overall efficiency. But when it comes to buying cinema cameras, the amount of options is overwhelmingly huge. Follow-up costs are often hard to calculate, and the use case varies heavily on the amount of rigging options, size, and available built-in ports. As I already owned a hybrid camera that worked fine for my social media content, I quickly ran into limitations as soon as I started freelancing. Now I know how hard it is to find the proper cinema camera for your use case. In this video, I will be sharing the 4 most important questions I was asking myself to find the right cinema camera for me, how to avoid the mistakes I've made, and how you can learn from them. So because you probably don't know me yet, let me give you a bit of a background. About 4 years ago, I bought my first professional camera, the EOS R6 from Canon. I use this camera to shoot almost every piece of content that you can find on my Instagram, and therefore has been a very solid A camera for many years now. And I still use it today as my B cam. But after working on bigger sets for a couple of times and starting to land my own first paying clients, there was no more space for errors like overheating, where I could no longer only focus on my R6. So basically, there were 2 options. I could either rent what I need for the shoot that I'm hired for, or invest in a camera that I'll be able to rent out to the clients that I'm working for. So I figured that renting gear every time I was hired for a shoot just didn't make sense for me at this point. I would rather have a camera that I can take out and shoot my own projects with, and really be able to experience and test out many things that I would find on bigger sets as well. So I can practice on my own instead of having to rent a camera every time I want to go out and shoot something that my Canon EOS R6 couldn't do. And therefore I choose to go with the second option, giving me the flexibility to use the camera whenever I wanted to, and also make a side income, renting out the cameras to the clients that want to hire me. Because this is a very big topic, I won't be going into all of the details in this video. Alright, so at this point I knew that I have to step up my game. It was time for me to invest in a system that could deliver a professional workflow and therefore serve the purpose of my business. This brings me to my first most important question that I ask myself to find the right camera. So I love the saying of buy once, cry once. And this really applies to all the gear that I own. By making sure that you keep your midterm goal in mind for the next 3 years or so, this way you avoid making compromises that will cost you more money further down the line. So what do I mean by this? Let's say you want to work in the commercial filmmaking space and also build a personal brand and enjoy traveling. In this case, the workflow that you would be aiming for might involve small to mid-sized crews, run and gun setups, and filming YouTube-style vlog videos. With this wide range of different requirements, you might want to be focusing on the more demanding ones so don't get limited too quickly. So you probably want to look for professional audio inputs, proper rigging options, solid battery life, resolutions of at least 4K, and all of this in a relatively compact format, so you can still use it as your everyday camera. Now, there is no such thing as a perfect camera overall. And by choosing a camera that might have some features that you don't necessarily use right now, you can make sure that you have the chance to grow along with it. This way, you can future-proof your camera investment and not have to worry about the newest cameras that come out every time. Now, there are certain things you might want to have and other things that you might want to avoid. So this brings me to my second question. What we want might not be what we need and can afford. Oftentimes, what we think we want also has to do with the influence of people that inspire us. To help you decide what you really need inside of your camera, I came up with a 2-step system that I use to define my needs. So step 1 is to find out what my delivery expectations are. Most of the projects I work on deliver in 4K file type. Is there RAW required, or is it just nice to have? This is up to you. And step 2, identify your ideal workflow. Finding the right workflow for you might involve things like form factor, where I would include the weight of your camera, the rigging options that you might want. Here you would be looking at mounting points for rigging up your camera to any given scenario, the built-in ports that come with it, and the necessary accessories that you might need to acquire to fully use your camera the way you want. The camera specs. Things like autofocus can play a huge role in the workflow that you require, especially for run and gun scenarios. Built-in NDs can save you a lot of time. Battery life. So I would also consider looking at the battery life of your camera. Some cameras might rely on external batteries such as V-mount, and other cameras come with stock batteries that hold up to 4 hours. This can be a huge benefit for certain scenarios and solo operating in general. Now that you've decided on the features and requirements of your camera, it is time to look at the different options on the market. Because everybody's needs are different, it is nearly impossible to choose a one-fits-all solution. When it comes to investing in cinema cameras that will help you to grow as a filmmaker and land bigger clients, a good camera will certainly help you do that. That being said, I want to emphasize the point that good lighting and storytelling will always win the point, and that the person knowing more about composition and other visual storytelling aspects will always produce better images with a less advanced camera than a beginner with a Hollywood-grade camera. The most reasonable budget probably lies between $3,000 and $15,000 US for a camera body only. These costs are pretty straightforward, but what is much harder to calculate is the follow-up costs that might come with the camera. This is why I created a general list of items that can be found in a basic camera kit. To build a basic camera kit that suits smaller gigs, music videos, and interviews, you would at least include camera body, a camera lens, batteries, memory cards, a tripod, a shotgun microphone, filters such as NDs and polarizers, a cleaning set, the necessary cables, and a multi-tool, plus a carry case. For a more professional camera kit, you might want to add more lenses, more camera bodies, a camera cage, external monitors, a base plate with 15mm rods, wireless microphones, a matte box, a follow focus paired with a video transmission system, a gimbal, a client monitor, and some headsets. This would still exclude any type of grip or lighting equipment that you probably need for a small to mid-sized production. But this might give you a good overview of things that you might want to add to your kit to provide a more professional workflow. Now, I don't want to make things more complicated than they already are, but I hope that this helps to illustrate the relatively large amount of follow-up products that you might want to be considering when buying a camera. Calculating your budget is therefore a lot more than just buying a camera body. It's well worth looking into second-hand cameras so you can spend more on lighting and accessories. It is also important to say that a lot of these items will probably outlast your camera body and should be viewed as long-term investments. This is why buying high-quality goods will make you more money along the way, and also more fun when you can lean on their reliability. Okay, so let's say you have done the calculations and are considering to buy a camera that suits your needs. You limited your options to a couple of cameras. Now it's time to decide which one works the best for you. But how can you find out for sure? First of all, it will be helpful to know that there will come some drawbacks with every camera, and that's perfectly fine. I would highly recommend to research the camera that you want to buy as good as you possibly can through reading articles, watching YouTube videos, and visiting the spec sheet on the webpage. There are many channels out there that will dive deep into the specs of cameras and comparisons. Some of my favorites are CVP, Gerald Undone, and Potato Jet. And my biggest tip that I honestly waited way too long to do myself, go to a camera rental near you. This is so incredibly valuable. You get to hold the camera in your hands, try it out, test it, and you might as well meet some inspiring filmmakers and get to ask them questions about the cameras that they know perfectly. I would highly encourage you to not skip this step before you invest some of your own money into a camera. Finally, you can't do much wrong. Despite the camera that you choose to buy, you will learn a lot. And if the camera is really not what you've expected it to be, and you treated it respectfully, the chances of selling your camera secondhand will be there. And as soon as the point will come where you'll be able to rent out your camera kit and be able to save up for new camera gear, you will see it was all worth it. So a little over 4 months ago, I finally pulled the trigger on my dream camera. But before I did that, I was spending almost a year researching different cameras, rigging options, and I finally did it. I bought the Canon C70, which has already helped me tremendously on my video productions and gave me confidence to rock up to more shoots knowing that my camera will perform. Finding out which camera you want to buy takes a lot of time. We zoomed out and asked ourselves if we can rent the camera and skip the buying part. We zoomed back in again and asked ourselves where we are heading towards in the next 3 years. We asked ourselves what we really need and looked at our required delivery options and our ideal workflow. We reflected on our budget to not lose sight of the follow-up costs of the camera. We made sure that we get a second opinion and test the camera before we buy it, and we also calculated the risk when we finally buy the camera. I really hope that this video resonated with some of you. If you have any questions or thoughts about this topic, I would love to see them in the comments down below. This was it for this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.